What's up YouTube? I'm Technical, bringing you another weekly video. Today I will be discussing Docker. So the first part of this video, I want to talk about what Docker is and its benefits, and then the second part I want to show you how I am installing an application using Play with Docker. So Docker is a set of platform service products that use OS virtualization to deliver software in packages called containers. So these containers are separate from one another, but they use the same operating system kernel, and they communicate with each other through these well-defined channels. So that's a brief definition. So I want to tell you first about what functions as a service is and how containers are different from virtual machines. So in this diagram here, we have virtual machines on the left and containers on the right. So the main difference between virtual machines and containers is that virtual machines require this hypervisor with guest operating systems in order to run these disparate applications. And with containers, you have the operating system with the container engine on top, such as Docker. So what does this mean? Well, this means that virtual machines, they occupy a lot of memory space. Docker, they operate less space. They're usually quicker. They use less resources as opposed to a virtual machine. They're easier to scale. You can have thousands, millions of containers all communicating with one another. With virtual machines, it's a little bit difficult. Docker is more efficient than virtual machines due to their ability to communicate with one another and, again, take out that layer of the guest operating system and the hypervisor, because they're essentially operating on this operating system and Docker within the cloud infrastructure. So again, it's more portable, flexible, agile, and very pioneering for software developers. So Docker represents function as a service. Now, function as a service means that before we used to have a monolithic application such as Drupal. So Drupal had its own instantiation of data and how you had to communicate with Drupal's data and the way you created views and content types. What Docker does is it has these microservices that each have functions. So they sort of act as an abstraction of an abstraction. To put this in more simpler terms, when you have a Comcast box, cable box, that could represent a monolithic application. When you purchase or subscribe to the Comcast service, you get the monolithic application that Comcast is providing you, versus if you had something like Roku. Roku could represent Docker or the container methodology, wherein you have Roku, which represents the container, and then these applications inside it, which represent the microservices, like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Video, NBC. These are all the microservices, and it's more flexible. So that's the main thing about containers, is that Roku would represent the container. And then these microservices would be inside of these applications. So for instance, Uber uses containers quite frequently, actually entirely in their infrastructure. So a function could be something as simple as like using the navigation feature to tell your driver where specifically you want to be picked up. That could be one function within Uber. So, and then another function could be payment. So it's broken down, but it uses that container, again, that container principle where it's all connected, and it's more efficient and information can be spread quicker. So next I'm going to be showing you how I can install an application using Docker. So now I'd like to show you how I will install an application in Docker and demonstrate function as a service. So first thing I'm going to do is go up here to this wrench icon, and then I'm going to click on one manager and one worker. So under the manager tab, this is my container. So this terminal console represents the container that I just created. So I'm going to paste this command that I have to open function as a service. So now it's going to download that and install it. So now what we're going to do is open, well, first we need our password, which is right here. And then we're going to open port 880. So username will be admin and the password is from the terminal. Great. So now we're in open FAS, which is the open source sandbox for the Play with Docker playground. So now we're going to deploy a new function. So we're going to install Figlet. We're going to double click on this, oops, and then deploy. So here's our Figlet function. So to demonstrate that this microservice is working, we're going to copy this URL and we're going to deploy another function, and we will deploy curl. So what curl is going to allow us to do is it's going to show us that these microservices are communicating with one another. So we have the URL. So what we're going to do is we're going to say curl, and then we're going to say hey there. Cool. So what this did was this command that I put in the curl microservice showed that we actually communicated between these two separate microservices. So this is huge. This is all running inside of the container that we just built within this Docker playground. So it demonstrates how incredibly powerful this is. We can see the text that we created in this, these quotes. So again, Docker is extremely powerful, and this represents the benefits of using containerization or function as a service, and all of its benefits. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the video below, and I'd love to get back to them. As always, I'm Technical, and I will see you guys soon.